What's up, guys? My name is Tai Zen, and in this video, guys, I want to share with you guys what I have learned and what I have observed after I left the U.S. and relocated back to Vietnam to take care of my sick mom. Okay, many of you guys that have been watching me and been following me on my Vietnamese success and personal development channel, or my English cryptocurrency.market channel. Many of you guys know that I came to America as a Vietnamese refugee in the late 70s, around 1977, 1978. I came to America as a Vietnamese refugee and grew up very poor. My family had no capital, no money, no relatives, nobody in America. So when we came here, since my family came from a very small fishing village, we were not, the sharpest tools in the shed. We were not the brightest bulb that you have, and because of that, we had no education, we had nothing. Nobody in my family graduated high school in America, and to save money, we grew up in a very poor ghetto black neighborhood to save money and reduce our living expenses. And because my parents did not know the difference between living in a ghetto and living in a nice neighborhood, because the absolute worst ghetto in America is still 10 times better than the fishing village that I grew up in. So because of that, we did not know, okay? And I ended up hanging out with a lot of black friends, right? And ended up selling drugs and ended up going to prison for nearly 14 years for drugs. And then I came out in my mid-30s, learned how to trade stocks, futures, Forex. And then when the cryptocurrency market started coming along, right, since I already had experience trading and investing in the stocks, futures, and Forex market, I was able to take that experience and dive into the cryptocurrency market, figure out how to profit from that, and I was able to make a life-changing amount of money from that and retire by the time I was in my mid-40s, okay? And when I retired, I didn't have a lot to do, so I found out my mom was sick, so I decided to relocate my entire family back to Southeast Asia so that I can use the money that I make to take care of my family in Southeast Asia, okay? So what happened was, in this video series, I want to share with you guys the realities of Vietnam. When I was living in America, for 40 years, I grew up under a democratic government. Don't know anything about a communist government. I still don't know anything about a communist government. Like, I don't even know who whoever the premier or the president of Vietnam is. I'm still trying to figure it out, right? The other thing too is I have no clue how their government works, okay? What I want to share with you guys in this video is what I consider, just give you guys the realities, the facts and the realities. And when I say facts, I'm talking about what my eyes see in front of me, not what I read online, not what people tell me on the streets, or not what people tell me online, but what I actually see and observe in real life, okay? Because before I came back to Vietnam, make the decision to relocate back to Vietnam, I looked online, did a lot of research, and there was a lot of information about Vietnam and the government here, about the communist government. The reason why I was doing research on the communist government in Vietnam was because all my life I grew up in America, and if you live in America, they teach you that the Communist Party is bad in Russia, in China, in Vietnam, in Cuba, and places like that, and there's nothing good from it, and they're not treating their people correctly, there's no freedom there, there's lots of stuff, okay? I don't know if it's true or not, and you guys gotta know something. I grew up in the streets, so you just can't tell me something, okay? You have to prove it to me. That's the difference between street smarts and book smarts, okay? Book smarts is a person where you just tell them something and they just believe it. Street smarts, you have to prove it to them before they believe it. So I'm one of those people that grew up in the streets, so you have to prove to me what you say. You just can't tell me that and expect me to believe it. So when I was researching online about living in Vietnam, there was a ton of videos in the Vietnamese language from the Vietnamese communities in Southern California, around the Orange County area, from the Silicon Valley area, around the San Jose, San Francisco area in California, from the Dallas-Fort Worth area where I live in America, and the Houston area and the Atlanta area. And I could not find any broadcaster on YouTube that talked or said anything good about the Vietnamese government. Nothing. Like, I did not find any positive words about it. And it scared the crap out of me. It really scared the shit out of me because I didn't know what to expect when I came back to Vietnam. I didn't know if they were going to confiscate my property, take my money from me, separate me from my wife and kids. Like, you guys might hear this and you might laugh and you guys might think, oh, you're fucking silly, Ty, or you're stupid or something like that, you know. But what I want to share with you guys is that I have never been back to Vietnam. Like, the only thing I know about Vietnam is that it's a communist country and you got to be careful because everybody in America says that it's a bad country. Now, coming and growing up in the streets, right, you know, I was told that marijuana is bad for you too. But then I go see all my friends smoking it and they're not dying from it. Okay, if anything, they're just getting a bunch of lazy bums. Okay, becoming lazy bums. Okay, unmotivated to do anything. They tell me that, you know, alcohol is okay, but then there's more people that get killed from alcohol than anything else in America, right? So there's a lot of things that I hear people say in America, and I always question whether or not that is accurate information. Like, they'll say one thing, right? Like, when I was in school, they told me that if you do drugs like cocaine or heroin or crack, especially crack, right, you are going to just die, okay? The reality is, when I lived in the ghetto, there were thousands of people smoking crack, snorting cocaine, shooting heroin. Nobody died from it, okay? Not that I personally knew of, okay? And there was thousands of people in my ghetto that were doing it every day, okay? So I always question what I see, I always question what I hear, and I always question whether or not what other people tell me is true or not. But when it comes to Vietnam, even though I was a street smart person and I question everything I hear, it was really hard for me to question these people and really analyze what these Vietnamese people were saying about how, you know, evil the Vietnamese government was, because there was no opposing information. Okay, there was no opposing information. There was no Vietnamese on the YouTube or on the internet that was saying anything positive about the Vietnamese government. So that's why I was scared, because, man, like, is it that bad that, you know, there's nobody, I couldn't find anybody that said anything good about the Vietnamese people? Now, keep in mind, guys, this, okay? I know how to speak Vietnamese about the level of a 7th or 8th grader, okay? I know how to read and write Vietnamese at the level of probably a 4th or 5th grader, like maybe even a 3rd grader. So keep that in mind, so that when I'm doing research online about Vietnam, you know, that's my capacity, my research capacity, okay? So I just want you guys to know that, okay? However, and I would listen to these broadcasters from Orange County, you know, and they would say all these things about how, you know, the Vietnamese government will, you know, grab you by the throat, grab you by the ankles, and shake you, you know, for all your, you know, make you drop all your money so they can steal it from you. If you try to open up a business, they'll come in there, you know, they're like the mafia. They'll come in there and rob your ass. They'll come in there and threaten you, you know, and blackmail you and do all this stuff, right? All this stuff, right? And they said that, hey, you know, the communist government, you know, like, it's all a buddy system, it's all nepotism, you know, they put their kids in power, they put their relatives in power, all this stuff, okay? So I was very, very scared coming back to Vietnam, because I thought that, you know, my life might be in danger. There's like one of the few times in my life that I was actually scared of something, okay? Because I'm not easily scared. Like, things don't scare me too much, because I've had multiple people put guns to my face, put guns to my head, you know, and try to rob me, try to shoot my ass. I've been shot many times before, right? Like, I hear of some of these rappers in America where they talk about they're in the hood and they shoot people and they've been shot at and stuff. I don't believe none of that crap, you know, because the way they act and the way they talk, you know, that's not what people who've been shot at or had to shoot people talk and sound like, okay? But anyways, you know, so it's rare that I find anything or anybody or any human being that scares me, okay? But coming back to Vietnam, I was really scared, okay? But now, when I finally land in Vietnam in the fall of 2018, right, I was completely shocked, guys. I was completely shocked. And that's what motivated me to make these series of videos for you guys about Vietnam, because I believe that the truth is not out there about Vietnam. Like, we only have one side of the story. It's just like in America. If you only watch CNN and you watch all the fake news networks, you only get to hear one side of the story, okay? if you have to listen to, Fox News, you have to listen to Breitbart, you have to listen to all these other places, so you get both sides of the story, and then you stand in the middle and determine what's facts and what's reality and what's not. Okay, so I'm hoping that these videos that I share with you of my lessons and observations of Vietnam will provide the other side of the story, so that when you guys consider anything about Vietnam, you can hear it from both sides. You can hear it from all the people that say the bad stuff about Vietnam, and then you can hear what I'm saying about all the good stuff that's in Vietnam. Okay, now I'm not going to spend too much time on the bad stuff about Vietnam, because there's already thousands of other broadcasters out there talking about bad stuff about Vietnam. I'm making these videos to say about the good stuff that no one ever talks about. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is the Vietnamese Communist government. Okay, it has been portrayed as an evil entity, as an evil group of people, as an evil organization, okay, by the Vietnamese people. Not by other people, but by their own Vietnamese people who got kicked out, who had their families killed by the Communist Party, who had their property seized by the Communist Party, and they have the absolute right to say everything negative about the Vietnamese Communist Party. They have everything. They have the absolute right to say that, because they have been personally affected by them. Now, keep in mind this, guys. I am one of those people. I am one of those people. When the communists took over South Vietnam and they took over my southern village, okay, in the province of Cà Mau, right? They took all my dad's property, all of my grandfather's property, all of my grandmother's property. They took everything. And that was why my family, my dad had to take me and my family out of Vietnam and come to America as refugees, okay? So I am one of those people. So I feel that I also have the right to say negative things about Vietnam and their government and things like that. But I am not going to do it in these series of videos, because what I see, the government that I see today and the Vietnam that I see today is completely different from the Vietnamese government that my parents experienced back in the 70s, in the 60s and the 70s, right? Completely two different governments, all right? And two different cultures, two different landscapes. So I cannot say, like, my dad still has, like, really, there's nothing that I can say or anybody can say about the Vietnamese government that would make my dad think positive of them. Like, absolutely nothing, because he lost his whole entire life. He lost family members, he lost brothers, he lost people in Vietnam because of the Communist Party. So there, you will never find a shred of positivity from my dad about Vietnam, okay? Nothing, okay? About the Vietnamese government, I mean. There's lots of beautiful things my dad can say about Vietnam, about the people, the culture, the city, the land and everything, but you will never find my parents saying anything positive about the Vietnamese government, okay? But if you guys, I want to use myself as an example. When I came to America and was a ignorant, uneducated, stupid teenager, and I went to prison for 14 years, right? During the first 7 years of my prison sentence, if you met me, Tai Zen, at that time when I was in my early 20s, right? You would not like me. I was a very bad person, right? I was doing whatever, all I could think of was survival. Like, how do I do this? How do I do this hustle? How do I run this poker table? How do I run these, sports bookie? How can I do anything? I didn't care if it was legal or illegal. I did it to make a buck so that I can survive. Okay, that's the only thing that Ty knew was, how do I survive? How do I survive? How do I survive for another day? That's the only thing that I knew of. Because that, I was looking for food, I was looking for shelter, I was looking for safety, I was trying to prevent, other big black guys from putting their, penis in my butt, So that's the only thing, all I could think of was survival. I didn't think about money, I didn't think about, becoming a better person, I didn't think about spiritual development, I didn't think about helping other people, I didn't think about nothing other than making sure that I survive and live till the next day in prison, and that Butch and Bubba doesn't go up in my butt. Okay, that was the only thing I can think of. If you met me at that time in my life, I was a completely different person, right? But today I'm a different person. I would recommend that you get to know me today. I would not recommend that you get to know me when I was in my late teens and early 20s, because I was not a very positive person. Likewise, if you look at Vietnam today in 2019 compared to where it was at in 1977 or 1975 or even 1995, okay? If you compare Vietnam today compared to where it was at 20, 30 years ago, it is night and day different. And I'll give you an example. When I entered the biggest Vietnamese airport in the city of Ho Chi Minh City, in the airport, the name of the airport is called Thang Sương Nhất, right? What I found out, what completely shocked me, I was expecting some older communist people to give me a hard time because I didn't speak Vietnamese very well, because I was coming from America. They're going to try to shake me down for some money and try to, make me pay them so that I can come into the country, or let me through and have my all kinds of stuff. I had all these negative thoughts about it simply because that's what I heard from the YouTube channels, from the other older Vietnamese broadcasters who had not been back to Vietnam. Okay, so they're only relaying their experience of what Vietnam was like from 40 years ago, right? And today it's a lot different. And what really shocked me was that when I went to the airport, almost all the government officials were like in their mid and late 20s. And because Asian people look very young and Vietnamese people look very young genetically, they just look younger than other people in the world that are the same age. Because of that, these 28, 29, 30-year-old government officials, they actually look like they're 22, 23. They look like college kids, okay? And I was shocked because I was coming through the what do you call that? The entry gates to get my passport checked, and I have a Vietnamese passport, okay? And I was shocked that they just stamped it and let me through, okay? And my wife, she has a Thai passport. They stamped it, let her through. There was absolutely no problems. And I looked around and I was shocked. There was about 500 people waiting in line. Like, it is massive to get processed through the immigration to get their passports stamped, and checked. And I was completely shocked at how fast they were processing everybody through the gates, right? Through customs and everything. And then when it was time for my two kids who are U.S. citizens, man, I had a massive problem because I forgot to get them visas so they can enter Vietnam. Now, imagine this, guys. Imagine coming to America without no visas at the airport, and imagine trying to get into the country. You know good and well that Homeland Security and Customs will absolutely never, ever let you come into America without a visa. Like, absolutely not. Like, there is absolutely no way in the world that you are going to come into America without the proper travel documents, okay? And I was shocked. I was shocked that I was able to talk to this person, that person, and finagle it, and eventually my kids, I was able to pay for the visas and get them through the immigration, through the airport and everything. Like, there was government officials there, right, that, they were extremely upset that I even thought that I could come into the country with my American kids and not have the proper travel documents and be able to enter the country. Like, they were like shocked, like you actually thought that, and it's not because I actually thought that I could come through there, it's just I completely forgot. It was my stupid fault, okay? I completely forgot to do the visas. I was so busy trying to pack up and trying to relocate and try to, do everything that I completely forgot, because the whole time I was working with the immigration attorneys and everything, and somehow or another, I forgot to get my kids the visas, okay? So finally, I get the visas and I come through, and I was completely shocked that all the government officials were extremely young, okay? They were extremely young. Matter of fact, when I tried to offer them some money so that they can let my kids through, right? Because I thought, hey man, you can just bribe these guys and get stuff done, right? It was not easy at all. It was not easy at all, okay? Like, you actually can get in trouble for that, right? And so it took a long time. It took like 4 hours at the airport before I was able to get a travel agency, to get like a bunch of different agencies at the airport to help me get the visas for my kids to come through. And the lesson that I learned from that was that even though I heard on YouTube that all these people were gonna, cut my throat and try to jack me and everything, the reality was none of them did that. It was my fault that I did not have the proper travel documents, and that was the reason why they held up my kids at the airport, because I didn't have no travel documents for them, okay? All I had was their American passports, okay? And they respected the fact that the kids were from America, and that's why they were even willing to work with me to let them in the country. Like if they were from another country or had another a passport besides an American passport, they probably would not have taken the time to help them help me get the paperwork, the visas that I needed to get them into Vietnam, okay? So that was my first experience with the Vietnamese government. After that, I decided to relocate to Da Nang because that was my goal, was to live in a beach city. I've always dreamed of living in a beach city. Ever since I was in America, I tried to relocate to the San Diego in Southern California. I shopped, I looked at several $1.2, $1.3 million homes. I was going to get that and settle in San Diego because I believe that's the most beautiful city in America to live. But there was always two problems. One was that the water is freezing cold. Like as many times I've lived and worked in California, I have never been in the water because it is absolutely freezing no matter what time of the year you go there. Like the only people that are qualified to swim in California waters are the crazy lunatics, okay, and the whales and the dolphins and the sharks, okay? Because I don't see how a human can possibly swim in there. Like I go there, I see people swimming in the water, and it is freezing cold. Like I'm asking myself, what are these people thinking, okay? Because it is cold water, okay? But in Da Nang, the water is absolutely warm and beautiful. It is even warmer than the water that's around the Florida beaches, okay? I mean, when you go into the water in Vietnam, it is so clean and so beautiful and so warm that you never want to leave. Like my wife is telling me to get out of the water, and I'm like, no, I'm just laying here. Like, I couldn't believe how warm the water is in Vietnam and how clean it was, okay? So I went there and I tried to rent a luxury condo in Da Nang, okay? The problem, it was like the most luxurious condo there, okay? It's at the Vincom Plaza, and right, it's attached to the Vincom Plaza. If you guys ever been to Da Nang, you'll know what I'm talking about, okay? And what I was shocked was I went down to the immigration office in Da Nang, and the same thing happened again. When I went there, it was mostly young people, okay? It's really weird because everywhere you go, you see government officials, but they're all young looking. They all look like they are still in college or just came out of college. And I want you guys to think about this, okay? They were helping me, like, obviously I know Vietnamese, but I don't know all the technical, legal, immigration, and political terms. So I'm trying to figure out, how to renew my kids' visas, extend their visas, and all this stuff so my whole family can stay there in Vietnam longer. And they were extremely helpful. The government officials there, the young government officials there, took the time, explained it to me multiple times, and I know that in America, they would not have taken the time to explain it to me that many times in America. Like if you don't understand it, I have to explain it 2 or 3 times, that's it, okay? But here, like they knew that I did not understand it. It was very obvious from my Vietnamese accent that I was not a local Vietnamese and that I was an overseas Vietnamese. And they took the time to help me explain, hey, look, you got to do it like this. You got to go get this document. You got to go back to your village where you were born and get this document. You need this, this, and this. And then you got to go register with the Da Nang Police Department and all this stuff in order for you to live here in the city. So they explained everything to me. And here was the thing about it. I thought that they would be expecting me to pay them, like take a bribe in order for them to help me or in order for them to do it. But the reality was, it was not because of that. It was not because of that. And I thought, well, maybe it's because I was an overseas Vietnamese and they were just being nice and pleasant to me because they think I have money and stuff like that. But I would stick around the immigration office and I would listen to how they are interacting with the Vietnamese locals. And in my opinion, it was the exact same way. Like, they were helpful. Like, and I realized that all this stuff that I hear about how bad the Vietnamese government was, right, from the older Vietnamese generation in America, I realized it's not true. It's not true, guys. I'm making this video to tell you guys that it's not true, okay? What I see in the real world and what I hear on YouTube are two different stories that do not match up, okay? What I hear my dad saying about the Vietnamese government, okay, it doesn't match up with what I see. And the reason why it doesn't match up is because the Vietnamese communist government that my dad had to deal with, and that the elders that are broadcasting about the negative things about Vietnam, they dealt with the older generation Communist Party. The new generation of Communist Party are kids that just came out of college, kids that know how to use the internet, kids that know how to use computers, and these are college kids. Like, and when I say kids, guys, I'm not joking. Like, when you go to all the government offices, everybody looks like they just got out of college. Okay, they all look young. I don't know if it's because the genetics, they all look young, or it's just because they actually are young. To me, they all look young. They all look very, very young. And I want you guys to imagine something. I want you guys to imagine that a 24, 25, 29-year-old, a 30-year-old kid, okay, I say it's a kid because I'm 47 years old. I want you to imagine a late 20-something-year-old kid or an early 30-something-year-old kid asking you for a bribe in front of everyone. Like, the way that the Vietnamese government offices are, it's not like the US where there's a lobby where everybody waits, and then you go up to the counter, you go up to the desk, and it's far enough to where there's privacy there, to where when you interact with a US government official, there's some type of privacy where you can, or confidentiality, where you can communicate with the US government official without the rest of the world hearing what you are saying. It's not like that. In all the Vietnamese government offices that I've been to, when you go in there, everybody's waiting there in the lobby, in the waiting room, and the government desk or counters are right there. Like, everyone can listen in and hear what you are saying to the government official and what they are saying to you. So if they try to ask for a bribe, or if you try to bribe them and give them money, I'm not saying that it's not possible, okay? I'm not saying that, so don't jump on my ass. Don't leave any stupid comments that, yes, you can bribe these guys. Okay? I'm not saying that, okay? What I'm saying is that imagine how difficult it is to offer a bribe to a communist official, or imagine how difficult it would be for that communist official to ask you for a bribe in front of 100 other people that is just right behind them, okay? Like, you guys see this chair behind me right here? When I'm talking to the government official right here, where the camera is at right here, the camera is about 1 yard or 1 meter in front of my nose. And there are people waiting in line, like right here, like arm's length, right behind me. And they can listen to everything they say. And it's not like in America where when you talk to a Vietnamese, to a U.S. government official, the conversation is private. It's between you and that government official. In Vietnam, I'm going to let you guys know in advance, it's not like that. You can be at the bank, you can be at the airport, you can be at a bunch of places. You can be talking to the government official, and the person waiting in line behind will also chime in and be a part of the conversation. That is normal. Like, at first, the first time it happened to me, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, mind your own business. And it's not like that. They'll jump in and ask the government official the question. They'll jump in and ask me the question about my own stuff. Okay, that's very normal in Vietnam. Like, that's like if you go to the bank and you deposit money at the bank at the teller window, it's very common for another person to come on this side and also deposit money, and somebody come in from this side and deposit money, and the bank teller is handling 3 customers' transactions at the same time, right? So while you're filling out your form and they're filling out their form and the person over here is filling out their form, you can look and see how much everybody is depositing or withdrawing. That's normal in Vietnam. Like, that's not unusual, okay? So be prepared for that, because the first time it happened to me, I'm like, hey, you guys need to give me some space, and hey, let me finish first before you guys come in. But that's normal. So I want you guys to imagine how it would be possible to bribe the government official right then and there while everybody's sitting here looking at him and paying attention to what he's saying. I want you guys to think about that, if that even makes sense. Okay? Now, Some of you guys are going to say, some of my trolls are going to say, Ty, you're stupid, you're too young, you don't understand, you just got there to Vietnam, okay? You don't understand the bribe happens behind the scenes or behind closed doors. I don't know about that. I don't know about it. All I see is young people trying to help other people get stuff done. And there's something else that you guys got to be aware of, right? The government officials, they grew up poor. Most of them grew up poor. Most of them grew up in the countryside. And now they come to the city, they come out of college, and they work in the government. The government positions and the government jobs in Vietnam are considered extremely prestigious. It's not like in America where if you tell somebody that you work in the government, you are a loser, you are a failure, you are nobody, you are not a big achiever, okay? You are a loser, okay? In Vietnam, it's the complete opposite. If you work in the government, that's a very honorable, very prestigious position, and you can tell it is because all the government officials, okay, all the government officials have to wear military-like uniforms. It's not like in America where the government officials can wear civilian uniforms, okay, or civilian clothing. In America, in Vietnam, they cannot do that. Like when you go in there, it is very, very official. It's very formal. It's very professional. Like there is no joking around. Like when you watch everybody interact with the government officials, there's no joking around. There's no playing around, right? It's almost really weird because it's just too professional, okay? But they come up there, they address you accordingly, like sir, ma'am, you know, big brother, older brother, uncle, you know, something like that. And then you address them correctly. You know, you pretty much, everybody you have to address as older brother or older sister, even if it's obvious that they're younger than you, simply because they're a government official and in a position of authority. And speaking of authority, when you go into the government offices and buildings, it is very clear that the government has the authority. Like when you walk into a U.S. government office or a building, you walk even into the courthouses, into the judges or the county clerk's office or the Department of Motor Vehicles or the immigration office, it's very difficult to determine who has the authority there. Like who is the big dog or who has the authority or who is the government. Because people dress in civilian clothes, right? And sometimes they have name tags, sometimes they don't. So you can't tell. But when you come into any Vietnamese government office, they make it very clear who is in charge. Like there is absolutely no confusion who the government officials are and who the civilian people are, okay? And they do that on purpose, and it's extremely professional, and there's no joking around. Like during all the government interactions that I've had, and I'm only sharing with you guys my personal experience. I'm not telling you what everybody else is doing. I'm only sharing with you guys my personal experience and what I'm looking around. Because keep in mind, I'm paranoid, guys. I'm expecting government officials to come out, handcuff me, arrest me, threaten me, do something. So I'm looking around at everything, and I'm looking around to see if maybe they're treating me nice because, you know, they're faking it and actually going to treat other Vietnamese locals differently. But the reality was not. They were very professional. They are much more professional than any government office in America. Okay, I know it's shocking to say that, guys, but that's what I see and that's what I experience, and that's what I see how they are treating other Vietnamese locals around me. And then when I see foreigners come in there, they treat the other foreigners, the white foreigners there, the Europeans, the Australians, the Canadians, the exact same way too. So it's not really it was a huge shock and awe and a huge shock and surprise to me, guys, when I came back. And so I wanted to make this video to share this stuff with you guys, because when I was doing the research online in preparation to come back and relocate back to Vietnam, I was scared shitless. I'm telling you right now, I was scared shitless because I didn't know they were going to lock me up, they were going to detain me, or what they were going to do with me, okay? And you might ask, like, Ty, why would you be afraid of that? What have you done that's illegal, or did you break any laws that would prompt you to be afraid of the Vietnamese government? One is because my dad stole one of their Coast Guard boats, one of their government vessels, when we left Vietnam. Most people just took their fishing boats and took off from Vietnam. We were the only ones in South Vietnam who stole a government, our family stole and hijacked a government Coast Guard Navy vessel and took it with us. And that's how we got out of Vietnam. So I know that was a huge deal. So when we come back, you know, the government officials in my village, they know who my dad is. They don't like him, okay? So that's why I thought that something was going to happen to me, okay, since I'm his son, okay? Now, the other thing too, okay, that I want you guys to know about this is that I'll be making more videos. I'll be making more videos about just life in general in Vietnam, because the reason why I'm motivated to make these videos, guys, is one, is because there's so many negative things about Vietnam. And when I came back to Vietnam, guys, it is absolutely one of the most beautiful countries you will ever go to and ever know, okay? And it's unfortunate that I'm making these videos, guys, not for the Americans or the Westerners that want to come to Vietnam and visit. There's enough travel blogs, there's enough tourism blogs, there's already enough tourism information online for them to do that research. What I'm making these videos for is for the Vietnamese Americans and the Vietnamese people in America who have not come back to Vietnam and don't know the realities, because all they hear is the negative stuff like I did when I was in America. That's what these videos are for. It's for the Vietnamese people who don't know what's true and what's not true in Vietnam. And I'm hoping that these videos will open your eyes, open your mind, and shed light to you what a beautiful country Vietnam has become. Okay, it has become a magnificently beautiful country that nobody talks about. You don't hear too many people talking about the stuff that is amazing about Vietnam. Now, are there some negatives? Are there some bad stuff about Vietnam? Absolutely, just like any country. There's absolutely, like for one, I can tell you, the thing that annoys me the most is that there's no trash cans. Like everywhere you go, there's no trash cans. Like you want to throw trash away, there's no trash cans to throw trash away. So there's litter, there's stuff around the city quite a bit, right? More so than in America and other places, because there's no place to put the trash. It cracks me up. Like you want to throw trash away, but there's no trash, okay? So I'll talk about all that stuff, sanitation and stuff like that, in a separate video. In this video, I just wanted to share with you guys what my personal experience and what my eyes see, okay, with the Vietnamese government. And so far, it does not align, it does not match what the American government has said about the Communist Party in Vietnam, and it does not match what the older generation of Vietnamese people that were seriously hurt by the communist government. Okay, it doesn't match. It's not what they say, and what I see over here does not match. It's not accurate. That's why I'm making this video, to share with you guys what I personally observe and what I personally see. I grew up on the streets. You know, I have pretty good eyes to observe when something's reality and something's not reality. Okay, so I hope that this video opens your eyes to the government, the country of Vietnam, its government, its people, and I look forward to making some more videos in the future to help you guys understand other things about Vietnam. Okay, so thanks for watching this video. If you guys like it, give me a thumbs up. If you guys want me to make a video about a specific topic about Vietnam, leave it in the comments below. And if you want to troll me, right, make sure that you leave some good comments. Okay, just name calling is not good comments. Ty, you're stupid. Ty, you're ugly. Ty, you're an idiot. Ty, you don't know this, right? Those are not like logical. Give me some reasoning, okay, if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong about what I say about the Vietnamese government so far, right, let me know so that I can open my eyes so I can see it, okay? But give me evidence of it. Don't just tell me I'm stupid. I already know I'm stupid. I already know I'm uneducated. I have no high school degree, okay? Been in prison for 14 years. I already know all that stuff. You don't have to tell me. I already know that, okay? So give me some reasons why I'm wrong. Tell me some things that I don't know so I can start looking for it. And I'll look forward to seeing you in a future video. And if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, you are welcome to follow me on Twitter at HeyTyZen, okay? Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in a future video.